I don't make mistakes. I'm not just like the rest of you.
Your stubbornness against the inevitable killed those people.
There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England.
Evil Supermen. Characters that have similar powers and abilities to Superman, and they're not nice. Bit of an understatement to say that evil Supermen have rose in popularity in recent years, which has caused sort of a discourse around them online, particularly with their oversaturation. I said particularly really weird. The idea of the unstoppable force being the main threat is a cool idea on paper, but in execution it can be a little tricky because if all they are is a Superman but evil, they run a risk of having a bland villain. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I like my evil Superman like I like my pretzels. Fresh, a little salty, and not stale. You can really smell the pretzels through the green screen. There's a lot of examples of freshly baked, crispy, and nutritious evil Superman out there, as well as some stale and moldy Supermen you get out of the back of a gas station. But like the most skilled bakers, creators of the freshest evil Superman borrow some of that dough from the original source, add your own twist to it, put some salt in it, add a little spice before letting it bake until it becomes a flavorful masterpiece. Okay, so we're just gonna, hop off this pretzel analogy for a little bit, because if I'm being honest, the only thing I know about baking is making toast. But the point is, the best evil Superman borrows aspects from the original and twists them up in a way that makes them almost unrecognizable. Enough for them to stand out on their own, but have a clear inspiration to the original. And to better understand this, we need to better understand the superhero equivalent to sliced bread. Superman.
History of Superman, I guess.
Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joel Schultzer, with his first comic book releasing during the height of the Great Depression. Because if I was living in a time called the Great Depression, I would much rather look at a guy jumping around in a blue and red leotard over a plate of 2 peas and an almond. First appearing as a telepathic supervillain, I guess technically Superman himself was the first evil Superman. The character eventually evolved to be based on epic heroes like Samson and Hercules and became the world's first modern superhero. And he was given a plethora of powers, including super speed, super strength, and invulnerability, with later adaptations of the character giving him his iconic X-ray vision, laser eyes, and flight. From the 40s through the 60s, Superman became a pop culture icon, with his comics selling gangbusters and his merchandising and shows reaching an insane amount of popularity. But towards the end of the 60s, Superman became a little too powerful, and writers struggled to make compelling stories with him. Eventually, the superheroes that Superman inspired began to overshadow him. Superman being too powerful is a sentiment a lot of general audiences felt throughout the years, including me when I was born like decades later. My biggest problem with Superman growing up was the man was too OP. Like, what's so interesting about a character that can fly away from any danger and is pretty much when you have characters like Spider-Man and Batman who have to struggle to win? Well, okay, Spider-Man more than Batman because Spider-Man is like poor and he can't seem to catch a break, so he definitely has a short end of. Oh my God. Oh shoot. Oh my God. Yeah, pray for Peter in the chat, guys. He's struggling over here. But then one day I realized something. Superman isn't an interesting character because he's this all-powerful being that can do whatever he. I felt the burp coming. I couldn't stop it. He's an all-powerful being that can do whatever he wants to, but chooses to be the good guy. When anyone is given any amount of power, it's very easy to abuse it, and the fact that Superman doesn't makes him a compelling character. It's thanks to his upbringing and lessons from his parents, Mom and Pop Kent, that makes him a force of good instead of evil, and taking that foundation away is what makes a compelling evil Superman. DC sort of figured this out with their own string of alternate evil Supermen to various degrees of success. Probably the most mainstream canon evil Superman is Bizzarro, who first appeared in the Superboy comic books of all things, which is one of the many spin-off comic books that Superman had back in the day, like Lois Lane and freaking Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy Olsen had his own spin-off comic book series. A spin-off comic book series that lasted for 163 issues, which is like 162 more than I think he should ever have. So like people who were really starving for Superman comic books back in the day. So Bizzarro is supposed to be this failed Frankenstein's-esque monster clone to Superman, with most depictions of the character having like the exact opposite powers and abilities to the original Superman. For example, he'll have ice vision instead of heat vision, flame breath instead of ice breath, L Riz instead of Riz. You get the idea. But the aspect of the character that plays with and alters the mythology of Superman is his motivation. Superman already came into this world with purpose instilled to him, but Bizzarro was created with no purpose and tries to find his, which is pretty relatable, actually. I'm still trying to find my purpose. Another popular DC evil Superman is Ultraman, a Superman from DC's vast multiverse. You know, before they start to shove that in your face everywhere, I'm looking at you, The Flash. And you, The Flash, you're the one who started this. Ultraman also has warped abilities to the mainline Superman, like kryptonite being his main source of power instead of his weakness. As for his motivation, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little lame. He's just evil for the sake of being evil. In the comics, which I don't read. However, I do remember the version of the character in that old 2001 Justice League cartoon being a lot more interesting because it was something I could watch instead of read. In the 2-part Justice League episode, A Better World, there is an alternate Superman and Justice League called the Justice Lords to become quote-unquote evil to retaliate against a President Lex Luthor after he killed one of their members and pretty much made their lives harder. But this Superman is pretty much identical to the mainline Superman, only becoming evil because his worldview changed. The same thing can be said for the Superman from the Injustice games, who pretty much became evil because the Joker tricked him into killing his pregnant wife, which caused a bicycle off that blew up 75% of Metropolis. This is a story from a fighting game. There is a logic in it. Don't worry about it. It make any sense. Now, one can make the argument that depicting Superman in this way kind of ruins the character because there's a lot of similarities between the Injustice Superman and the Snyderverse Superman, who is like the main movie version of the character. So yeah, I can definitely see that argument. But I feel like we've come a long way from whatever this was. My Adventures with Superman is the latest adaptation of The Man of Tomorrow, and it does a pretty good job of establishing what makes the original character so great while putting a modern twist on it. And James Gunn's newest Superman film looks to be doing the same thing. But moving away from DC for a little bit, get over there, other people have made their own royalty-free versions of evil Superman. For example, Titan from Megamind, a man that was given extraordinary abilities only to impress a girl that had like no interest in the guy. Like the man had L Riz, and then when she rejects him for the final time, he decides to use his powers for, you know, his own selfish needs. You know, like a typical r/nice guy. Am I right, Redditors? I'm cool. And then you have some not so good examples like Brandon Beyer from Brightburn, who's pretty much like an evil version of a young Clark Kent. I guess he's an evil Superboy. But he pretty much becomes evil because of his spaceship? Really? Is that where they're going with? It's like they had a cool idea for an evil Superboy horror movie, but they forgot to give him a good reason to be evil. And you want to know what's funny? I bet half you guys forgot Brightburn even existed before I mentioned it. Unlike these two evil Supermen, who are pretty hard to forget because of the memes. The memes pretty much solidified them in pop culture. And you know, I guess they're also well-written characters in decent shows, but the memes are pretty much the reason why we're even talking about these guys. Let's not kid ourselves. Who's buying an Amazon Video account just to watch 2 shows? Obviously I did, but like I had a student discount, so that's my excuse. Omni-Man first appeared in the Invincible comics in January of 2003. But who cares? Like, nobody reads comics. I know I don't. So let's just talk about the popular TV show he's in. Invincible's popularity rivals that of The Boys. The world building is on par with the superhero worlds it parodies, and the characters and situations they're put in are intriguing. But come on, Omni-Man is the only reason why the show is put on the map. Like, don't get me wrong, Invincible is a fantastic show, but Omni-Man really elevates it up to top tier status. Half of it because of how well written he is, and the other half is because of that iconic bushy mustache he grows. Like, dude, how do you grow one of those? The best villains are the ones that think they're right and kinda are. Omni-Man and the Ultraman Empire's plan is to better humanity with their superior resources and justice structure. You know, if you think about it, the Ultraman's goals are very similar to the Kryptonians. You know, if their goals are based on their prejudice against weaker people. The key difference between Omni-Man and Superman is that when Nolan arrives on Earth, he's like a full-grown man with his own views and opinions on our planet and humanity itself. And eventually, Nolan learned to be humble by, you know, living with us and having a human family. Even after killing the Guardians of the Globe, Nolan keeps up the charade he has been for the past 20-ish years, only being pushed by the investigation of Cecil, Damien Darkblood, and even his own pet to expose himself in the most violent way possible. And while these actions haunted him in season 2, it's nothing compared to the psychological damage he put his family through. through. Debbie being depressed for, obvious reasons, like the love of her life called her a freaking pet right before beating the ever-living crap out of her son, and then he killed like hundreds of thousands of people. So she's gonna have some wine-filled nights. But Mark, not only being physically dominated by his dad and seeing the destruction he couldn't stop, but also worried about becoming like his dad. This is where we get into the nature versus nurture argument for evil Supermen, which derives from the idea of our core beliefs and traits being a product of our environment that we grow up in, or just our plain old-fashioned genes. In Omni-Man's case, the way he was nurtured definitely influenced his decisions throughout the show. But for Mark, it's a matter of if his father's traits rubbed off on him and if he can overcome them. Debbie mentioned multiple times that she's the sole reason for Mark knowing the difference between good and evil, since she primarily raised Mark when Nolan was away. But Mark wants to prove to himself and to others that he's not like his dad, to the point where he's sort of overcorrecting himself in season 3. A central conflict in season 3 comes from his and Cecil's ideologies on how to best save the world, with Cecil being morally gray, using the tools and abilities of supervillains to help their efforts, while Mark is more black and white, believing that all bad guys should be locked up instead of being used by the government or straight up being executed. Both views are valid, but I feel like Mark's views stem from him wanting to appear as a good guy, aka better than his dad, than from him truly believing it, something that Cecil actually calls him out on. Because if Mark truly believes in his views, then why does he still have hope for his dad's redemption? Especially after he's killed more people than any villain Mark's fought. Man, this animation is pretty bad this season, huh? But at the end of season 3, Mark learns that the best thing for him moving forward is to not practice self-restraint when someone threatens his family. A lesson he tried to teach his little brother Oliver not to do throughout this season. Oliver adds his own little wrinkle to the nature versus nurture argument, as his initial bloodlust and indifference on human life could be something he genetically got from his father, or more likely, him being a naive little kid with godlike powers, not really sure what to do with them. And like Mark, Debbie and Mark himself steer him straight early on, leading him to using his powers to help people instead of for thrill seeking, even though he definitely doesn't get upset when he gets a punch or jaw or two. As for Nolan himself, maybe one day he can be fully redeemed after being humbled from his short time on Earth. The same can't be said for Homelander. Homelander was created by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson and first appeared in The Boys issue 3. But I can honestly care less about comics. Like, I can't stress you guys enough how illiterate in my free time. If I had any lesson I do right now, I'd be illiterate. Besides, I heard that the TV show was better anyway, so we can just talk about that. Now, I've already talked a lot about Homelander in my most popular YouTube video on this channel. You might have seen it, it's gotten a couple views, but apparently some of you guys didn't watch it because you were thrown off by the thumbnail, which I guess that's understandable. It's not the most amazing thumbnail, but I feel like you guys are being a little too hard to... Oh, hang on, I think I stepped in something. What is this? Oh, wow. Free advertising. Thanks, guys. I've always wanted one of these. In that video, I said Homelander was scary because of how he was brought up. He essentially was brought up to be a mascot for a faceless corporation, given no real moral guidance besides being told he'd be the world's greatest superhero. So when you're told that you're the best thing since sliced bread most of your life, you're gonna grow up with a bit of an ego. Now, you could make the argument that his father, Soldier Boy, passed down his sociopathic genes, but at the end of the day, Vought is solely responsible for how Homelander turned out, putting another interesting twist on the evil Superman mythos. Like, if Superman was real and lived during the height of his own popularity, would he turn out like Homelander? Homelander never really got the chance to be good. I mean, sure, there's evidence of him being a genuine hero in his early days, but once mistakes were made and there was no repercussions for his actions, he just continued to get worse and worse and worse until it becomes a lovable scamp we see today. Oh, look at that. That's just John being John over there. Homelander is what Superman could have been if he didn't have a good support system. And unlike Clark and Nolan, John was never encouraged to empathize with the mud people, only to feed off their praise. In fact, Homelander's entire arc in season 4 sees him getting rid of his humanity, losing all empathy to people who aren't him. Homelander is dead set down an evil path, leaving his son Ryan open to lean on either side. I mean, seriously, either side's fair game. It's like one minute he's feeling bad for accidentally killing a guy, but then in the next minute he's making a girl slap a guy for his own amusement. But okay, I guess the guy in question was kind of being an r/nice guy, so he probably deserved it. And yeah, he did stand up to his dad when he made him do that weird puppet show. But he kills Mallory in the next episode, so it's like, are they trying to make him good but misunderstood, or did they genuinely not know what direction to take the character leading into the final season? Yeah, it's no secret that season 4 of The Boys was the weakest season, with the character inconsistencies being one of the biggest reasons. But the weaker writing could be due to the season being set up for the finale, and while the season ended on a bang, it definitely stumbled on its journey. Personally, I feel like the writers not committing to whether Ryan should be good or evil is kind of a cheap way to give the audience uncertainty of where his character is going to go in the final season, but whatever direction they decide to take the character, I just hope the journey will be satisfying.
So yeah, I think that evil Supermen are pretty cool. If that wasn't obvious by the runtime of this video, however long this thing's gonna be. And if done well, they give us a better appreciation of the original Superman, because being as hopeful and optimistic as Superman is pretty hard. And if any of us were given his extraordinary abilities, we could easily turn out to be a Homelander or an Omni-Man or a Conquest, because Conquest became super popular while I was writing the script, so I had to show him in this video somewhere. So there you go, buddy. Yes, I'm lonely too. Don't worry about that. It's so easy to be disillusioned by how messed up this world is, to see the negative of humanity and have that negatively reflect how we view each other. So it's believable that the average Joe would become an evil Superman if they were given his powers. But Superman himself isn't the average Joe. His name's Clark, so that already gives him a leg up. By using his powers to help people, Superman shows us what the best of humanity should look like. That's why he's called the Man of Tomorrow. He embodies the hope of what humanity could look like if we all support each other with our own strengths and capabilities. Superman shows us the possibilities of a better, kinder world, while evil Superman warns us of the consequences of a negative, cynical one. But ultimately, the outcome of how we view this world is what we make it. Does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like I got a little too pretentious in the end there. Maybe that hit home for somebody, but I don't know. This video was supposed to be a sequel to the Why the Boys Are Scary video, but I feel like this is more like a joke or two over Empire Strikes Back, if you catch my drift. But I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself. Anyway, like if you like this video, or don't like if you didn't. I still get the retention for it. Subscribe as well, because this channel is dying and I need the help. Like, for real, this is not looking good. Join my Discord server if you want to like talk to some cool people. I don't know. If you made it to the end of this video, seriously, thank you so much for watching. This video took way too long to make, and hopefully more videos will be coming real soon. So see you in the next one. Bye. Shoot, I forgot to talk about Century.